can imagine a situation, though, in which the ruling elite of a country is receiving gratuities on the side that inure to the benefit of the strongman leader and not to the populace of the country. Does that sort of corruption and bribery go on with regard to the Belt and Road?
Absolutely, Chairman. You know, I see this, and I don't mind calling them out, but Captain Traoré and Burkina Faso, you know, as they know that both, you know, whether it's their gold reserves, that is all those proceeds are just in exchange to protect the junta regime. There's a number of examples across.
You can always tell something important is happening when a U.S. general openly points fingers at an African leader, especially over gold. Recently, General Michael Langley, the head of AFRICOM, told the U.S. Senate that Burkina Faso's gold wasn't being used for the people's benefit, but instead to support Captain Ibrahim Traoré's government. But the real question is, isn't that gold the property of Burkina Faso? Today, we're going to dive into why such claims are being made, the power plays happening across Africa, and why Burkina Faso is suddenly getting so much global attention. In Burkina Faso, gold isn't just a shiny metal dug from the earth anymore. It's become a tool, a force for growth, and a symbol of real change. Every coin invested in farming means more food on the table. Every gram of gold spent on healthcare saves lives. And each piece used to boost security gives the people hope for a safer future. Burkina Faso is proving that even in an uncertain world, a country can grow stronger if it chooses to invest in its land, its people, and its own future. This isn't just about development. This is about a nation reclaiming its destiny, 1 gram of gold at a time. So why is Burkina Faso's gold bothering the United States? And why now, when the country has finally taken control of its natural wealth? Are we seeing new roads, new buildings, and clear efforts from Captain Ibrahim Traoré's government? Why is the U.S. painting him as the bad guy? What's the real story behind this? Welcome to this video, where we break down the facts and uncover why the U.S. is so concerned about a young African leader like Captain Traoré. Traoré isn't just another soldier turned president. He's become a symbol of African pride, youth leadership, and the fight for control over African resources. When he took power at just 34 years old, it sent shockwaves across the continent, especially after years of weak leadership, foreign dependence, and ongoing chaos in the Sahel. But Traoré did something different. He stopped begging for help and started talking about self-reliance, about keeping gold profits inside Burkina Faso, and about making sure local industries, not foreign companies, benefited from the country's wealth. These changes weren't small. They shook an industry long controlled by global mining giants and backed by powerful governments. Traoré's policies were a bold stand for true independence. For years, people believed Burkina Faso didn't produce much gold. But the truth is, gold has long been the country's biggest export. The problem was that Burkina Faso had no control over the gold, not its production, not even its refining. So, Traoré's government decided to change that by building the country's own gold refinery. Now, instead of shipping raw gold abroad, Burkina Faso can refine it at home, know exactly how pure it is, and decide how it's used. The state mining company, SONASP, is buying gold from local miners to stop illegal exports, which have long funded terrorism. Traoré's government is also encouraging miners and buyers to bring gold to official collection points, making sure the profits stay in the country. The next step? Investing in waste treatment and other gold-related industries to create jobs and protect the environment. Burkina Faso might be landlocked, but its gold reserves are huge, placing it among Africa's top producers. For years, this wealth flowed straight into the pockets of foreign companies, especially from France and the US, while ordinary Burkinabe struggled with poverty, broken infrastructure, and constant insecurity. Traoré said, "Enough is enough." His message was simple. Burkina Faso will handle its own resources. And that decision shook the global system, especially those who profit from the old ways. Make no mistake, what Traoré is doing isn't just about the economy. It's about breaking free from a system of exploitation that's been dressed up as development for decades. General Langley's statement wasn't just his opinion, it was a warning. By accusing Traoré of using gold for personal gain and offering no proof, the US is trying to turn public opinion against him. But here's the irony. AFRICOM itself exists to spread US military influence across Africa. It has always backed leaders who serve US interests. That comment also shows an old colonial mindset, the idea that Africa's wealth should only be used in ways approved by Western countries. But why is it suddenly a problem when Africans decide to manage their own gold? This isn't really about security, it's about fear of losing control. When people say Traoré is only protecting the rich, they ignore one important fact. It was the people, especially the youth, who backed him and pushed him into leadership, not foreign money or influence. He climbed the ranks through real public support, not because the US or another power placed him there. Gold plays a huge role in the global economy. Western countries use gold to back their banks, secure their investments, and balance their currencies. So when an African nation like Burkina Faso says, "We will refine and keep our gold at home," it's not just about gold anymore. It shakes the entire system that has kept Africa dependent and keeps Western economies comfortable. And Burkina Faso is not alone. If more African nations start using their gold to protect their economies, secure their countries, and support their own currencies without running to the IMF or World Bank, it will change the global financial system, and that's what worries the West. When Western powers lose control over Africa's resources, they lose one of their biggest tools for influence. That's why you see warnings, threats, and even military comments, like the one from General Langley. They call it resource nationalism, like it's a bad thing, but in truth, it's a country's natural right. Every nation has the right to manage its own wealth, but the pattern is always the same. When African leaders take that step, they are labeled dangerous, nationalists, or dictators. This is the oldest trick in the book, and it's the same excuse that has been used to target leaders like Thomas Sankara, Muammar Gaddafi, and Patrice Lumumba in the past. Traoré's real crime isn't being a dictator, it's being independent. He's breaking away from the old system where African resources were used to fuel foreign economies, while African people stayed poor. And while foreign governments may attack him for that, many Africans and Pan-African thinkers praise him for standing up. When you talk about Captain Ibrahim Traoré, you can't ignore the history of Thomas Sankara, the leader who once changed the country's name from Upper Volta to Burkina Faso, meaning land of honest people. Sankara stood for local control, refused IMF loans, and even cut government salaries, including his own. He dreamed of an Africa that could stand on its own, proud and strong. But that dream was cut short. Sankara was killed in 1987, and many believe foreign powers were involved. Now, Traoré is walking a similar path, and the world's reaction is starting to look very familiar. Whenever a young African leader dares to put his people first and manage his country's wealth for the nation's benefit, the same old voices from the West come out. They don't see these leaders as heroes or visionaries. Instead, the media quickly labels them as dictators, warlords, or military strongmen, even when the people themselves support these changes. Traoré didn't grab power to serve himself. He stepped up because ordinary people, especially the youth, were fed up with leaders who put foreign interests before their own country. But the moment an African leader pushes back against outside control, the story in the media always changes. Suddenly, they say the leader is undemocratic or power-hungry. We've seen this before. The same words were used against Gaddafi, Kwame Nkrumah, and even Nelson Mandela at certain points. But in the end, what matters most is not what the outside world says, but how Africans remember and support their own leaders. And Burkina Faso isn't alone in this fight. Mali and Niger are making bold moves too, cutting ties with foreign powers, taking control of their futures, and standing up for their people. ECOWAS, once seen as a way to unite African nations, is today condemned for acting under Western influence and frequently putting pressure on these independent countries to fit in. However, no diplomatic threat can override the voice of the people. If you travel around West Africa, whether you listen to people at rallies or scroll through social media, you'll hear the same message again and again. We stand with our leaders. We don't want foreign soldiers on our soil. We want control over our future, our land, and our gold. The spirit of Pan-African unity is still alive and strong, and it's more than just politics now. This movement is deep. It's about pride, culture, and a whole new generation that refuses to be silent. For those who've been getting rich by keeping Africa divided for decades, the fact that Captain Traoré is choosing to manage Burkina Faso's gold at home instead of handing control to outsiders is a serious warning. Because if Burkina Faso succeeds, if it can keep its wealth inside the country and use it to fund its own security, schools, and roads, then other African nations will follow that path too. And that would shake the old system to its core, the same system that has always told Africa, you can dig up the resources, but you can't build the future. That's why AFRICOM is speaking out. That's why the media is trying to twist the story. They understand that if this new mindset spreads across Africa, their grip on the continent will be gone, and this time it might be gone for good. Burkina Faso's decision isn't only about Burkina Faso. It speaks for every African country that has been trapped in poverty, robbed of its resources, and pushed around by foreign powers for too long. The message is clear. Africa doesn't want handouts. Africa wants to believe in itself. If one country can take charge of its gold, why not its oil? If one nation can protect its own leader from outside plots, it can also defend its independence. This isn't about starting wars. It's about waking up and taking ownership of the future. The West can question Burkina Faso's choices. They can criticize Captain Traoré. But what they can't deny is this: Africa is no longer asleep. Africans are tired of weak leaders who sell them out. They're tired of shipping out gold and other riches while poverty stays behind. Captain Ibrahim Traoré, though young, represents a generation that is done waiting for change. And if using gold to protect him is what it takes, so be it. For those who are hoping for another 1987, hoping to see another African leader overthrown, this time will be different. Africa is paying attention now. And this time, we won't stand by and watch history repeat itself. If this message opened your eyes, gave you hope, or even made you rethink the world's stories, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with your friends, your family, your community. Africa belongs to Africans, and this is just the beginning. You see, the same people accusing Captain Traoré of using gold for personal protection never mention the real work being done. They don't talk about the new machines bought to help local farmers grow enough food for Burkina Faso's people. They don't mention the construction tools brought in to build roads and homes. They don't talk about the young soldiers he inspires on the battlefield, fighting to bring pride and safety back to their country. They don't mention the mobile clinics he launched to bring health care to more people. They don't cover the new factories opening in Burkina Faso. All they focus on is the gold, and they twist the story, claiming he's using it for himself instead of for the people. That's the only thing they choose to see. But now, it's up to us, the people of Africa, to see the full picture and to protect this young leader, Captain Ibrahim Traoré. What really worries them isn't just Captain Ibrahim Traoré's power, it's his ideas. They are scared of the way he thinks, the way he challenges the old system. And as young Africans, it's our duty to stand by him and protect a leader who dares to dream big for his people. Whenever someone like him rises, they waste no time in trying to tear them down. They don't call them leaders, they call them dictators, warlords, juntas, anything to turn people against them. They've used this same trick before. They did it with Gaddafi, with Thomas Sankara, with Kwame Nkrumah, and with Patrice Lumumba. This time, we cannot make the same mistake. This time, we must stand firm and say, enough is enough. People all over Africa have already seen through the game. They see Captain Ibrahim Traoré as a leader who is waking up the youth and showing them a new path forward. That's why his enemies are so desperate. They know that if African nations start managing their own resources, their gold, oil, and minerals, the old powers will lose control. They want to stay in charge. They want to sell to Africa, not buy from Africa. They don't want us to process our own gold, because if we do, it means fewer jobs for them and more wealth staying here at home. That's why this fight is hard. That's why Captain Traoré said, homeland or death. He knows the risks. He knows they'll try to destroy him, the same way they've tried to do with other African leaders who dared to stand tall. People don't talk about the fact that Traoré has already survived more than 15 attempts to remove him from power. That alone tells you how much they want him gone. This isn't about self-defense, and it's not about gold. It's about the fear of losing control over Africa's resources. Look at what happened in Niger. When General Abdourahmane Chiani came to power, the U.S. lost access to its airbase. That airbase used to give them control over gold, uranium, and other resources in the Sahel region. When they lost that, they started spreading new stories, claiming these nations are using gold for self-defense. But the truth is clear, they are afraid of losing their grip on Africa. Even some African leaders have played a part in spreading these lies. Remember when Ghana's former president accused Burkina Faso of trading gold with the Russian group Wagner? But the reality is, we've all seen Traoré's work with our own eyes in just 2 years, the changes, the actions, the new path he's building. We have to push back against these lies. We need to support leaders who are working to change the future of Africa. And if protecting Traoré means using our own gold, so be it. Other countries, like America, use their own resources to defend their leaders and land, so why shouldn't African nations do the same? The real issue here is fear. They've lost control over our resources, and that scares them more than anything. These are the same people who refused to sell Burkina Faso weapons and tools when the country needed them to fight terrorism. Now that Burkina Faso is standing on its own, they want to rewrite the story. But we must write our own story, one that isn't controlled by Paris, London, Washington, or Brussels. The real story must come from Africa, from Ouagadougou, Bamako, Nairobi, Accra, Lagos, Dakar, and every African city. We need to protect Captain Ibrahim Traoré, because this isn't just about one man, it's about the future of the African people. And we must raise our voices against anyone trying to destroy his reputation. Using Africa's own resources to defend African leaders and build African nations is not wrong. It's the smart and rightful thing to do. Others have used our resources for their gain long enough. Now, it's time to use them for ourselves. What's your take on this? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more.